All right, taking a look at some of the features on this carbon fiber bipod, you can tell that first, it's set up for Picatinny in this particular model. It does have a Picatinny clamp with the lug acting as this kind of cross bolt feature here, which is adjustable. So this tensioning side actually tightens against a brass plate so it doesn't wear out the aluminum extra fast. It's probably a good idea because it has higher lubricity, less friction. It's just going to probably more consistently actuate and tighten, which is a good idea. You do have kind of a little flare to the lever so you can get some torque, and a little bit of knurling on the flare as well for loosening and tightening. This actually probably shouldn't rotate. Some of the old ones used to rotate them to tighten it down. Don't do it on this one because there are springs inside, which you might be able to see. Those springs would rotate and it would bust them. So don't do that. If you need to adjust it for tension to set it up for whatever Picatinny piece you need to get to, because Picatinny is kind of non-standard. From piece to piece, you might get a different, or from brand to brand, you might get a different actual specification and require different tightness. So use this. Grab an Allen and tighten that piece right there, loose or tight, and make sure it just fits for the Picatinny piece you have. Moving on from there, in your center column portion, there is a knob at the bottom. The carbon fiber shows up pretty nice on the camera, I think. Cool reflective pattern. And when you loosen, it's going to do two things. I can pan. So pan adjustment is now unlocked and open. And then additionally, if I loosen it far enough, I'll go ahead and do that like so. Now I also have increased cant. There's a little bit of cant initially, but if you go far enough into this setting, now I can actually get into some pretty extreme angles. Depending on the topography you're dealing with, there's two ways you can do that. You can adjust your leg length, right? You can make that longer or shorter. If I had really bad topography that I needed to deal with, that's one way to deal with it. And you still might need to do that with some really unlevel things if you're shooting on the side of a hill or a mountain against some logs, rocks. But then you can also set this and lock it. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this back down. That's what makes this one a little bit unique compared to some of their other bipods in the past. This one can be locked on the angle, and this is not going to tilt back. It is structured and stuck in that position. There's roughly, 3 positions. So I see one, pretty much, let's tighten that down. Maybe it's 5 positions. 2, center, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's say 5. There's 5 positions for angulature. I think the extremes you would use less often, but the in-between, so your level, and then the next degree over, and either side, that's probably more likely that you would use it, and it gives you less angulature change than a full leg extension would be to the next notch. So that's a really, really useful feature. You should be getting bipods with cant adjustment and pan adjustment if you're going to be doing hunting and you need to track, you're shooting on unlevel ground, which is most places in the world other than the flat range, right? I'll switch over to this side. You have your actuators for the legs, and the legs themselves are just 3 positions. So you're going to have closed and stowed. Let's say that it's stowed this way. You can deploy, and then you can actually actuate them backwards if you needed to stow and deploy them the other way. So 3 positions. There is no in between. That's about here. It's either stowed or open, or stowed the other way. So that's pretty neat. Good to see that you have some good sturdy positions. It looks like it's machined pretty well, and not a lot of flex. I would say pretty strong. When they're deployed, there's not a lot of movement, and I think the machining is tight enough. The spring tension is not terrible, but it does lock into place pretty nicely. Good amount, good snappy sound when it snaps in. So that feels good. From there, you have your buttons to extend the legs, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 notches of extension per side. There's your 4 notches. That's what those look like. And when they're locked into place, they're pretty solid, especially considering this is, kind of a carbon fiber plastic deal. Pretty solid lockup, not bad at all. And the buttons are nice and tactile. There's a spring tension in here, so they bounce back to the next loaded position. like so, but it is manual operation all the way through. You get quite tall. This is pretty tall. And lastly, on the very bottom, let's go to the feet, because this is the part that actually contacts your surface. You have pyramiding and a nice rubber pattern. I think it's going to take some time to wear those out. They actually look like good, durable feet. And overall, the stippling or the pyramid pattern looks like it's going to match up with most surfaces, whether it's ice or tar, concrete, grass, dirt, sand. It's going to match up pretty good and be aggressive enough to grab onto that. Doesn't look like it'll give you any issues, and even as it wears over time, it'll just be more and more level with the surfaces that are hard surfaces. So pretty neat, good quality for the price point, and actually probably made with some upgraded materials. A couple things that they've done which would stand out against some of the previous iterations that have pan or can't built into them. Now, enough talking about the overview. Let's go ahead and mount it up to one of my PCPs, take a few shots with it here at 50 yards and just kind of try it out on some different surfaces and maybe a couple different heights and just see how I feel about it, mount it up to that PCP. So here's a leg position you might not think about very much if you're from a relatively flat area. Typically, if you're just shooting on a level bench at a level place, it's very flat, you don't need your bipod this high. But if you're hunting up into the trees, like some people hunting sparrows or baboons, or up into a mountain, something like that, always know your target, what's beyond your target. Be safe when you do those things. But if you're shooting from here up into a tree with a good backstop, maybe at a squirrel's nest or using a PCP, something like this, having really high legs allows me to get absolutely comfortable behind the rifle. I'm fixed, I'm solid, and instead of trying to hold or build up more of a surface, I can just extend these legs right where I need it and use my rear bag as an adjustment while I'm tracking with animals. And if I get a little bit of travel for the animal, I can open up pan, and now I can track horizontally with whatever critter I'm tracking with. Or maybe you're just shooting into the mountains, shooting some ELR, extra long range, and you need to set up at a certain angle. This is very, very comfortable, and it's actually relatively steady considering how much extension I've added to the legs now. There is going to be some amount of movement. You can see that. There's a little flex. So what I tend to do if it's a center fire is I'll load into it just a little bit. If it's a rim fire, I tend to let it just be like reverse load, let it sit back on me like this. And with the PCP, most of the time, kind of the same thing. I just let it set back on the weight, and these are plenty strong. No concerns about that at all. And go ahead and take my shot. Let's drop it back down. Okay, there's a similar amount of movement at this point. Not quite as much, but a similar amount of movement, and I do the same thing. Most of the time, back to the flat range, most of the time, I just load the bipod a little bit. It's a little bit tall for the bench I'm sitting on and the rifle that I have squared away here, but I always carry a good size rear bag, and this is where it's going to feel most comfortable for me. Let's go ahead and gauge a target. Easy kills all day long for hunting, and really not uncomfortable for target shooting either. All right, so when it comes to hunting, you can't always pick your location that you're going to shoot. So if I'm shooting down a relatively steep hill, this one is relatively steep, you know, the incline is not too natural. This right here might be perfectly serviceable to shoot to the next hill at some distance. You know, I can throw in my bag, and I may be level with some spots that could work really well, or you still need to shoot high. So you have downsloping ground, but you need to take a higher shot. That's again an area where a bipod that can get a little bit taller will shine. Something like that, as you can see with that extension, now I have much more comfort and control behind the rifle than if I was trying to shoot off of a backpack, trying to flip that thing around, hold it in front of me. It could just be really complicated with anything other than a bipod, which is very simple, very quick application, and actually probably a little bit more sturdy than some applications with a tripod. So I like this idea. I think it works pretty good for most people. Not to mention, if I need to track with an animal, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up. I can track with an animal I can move this around. I can sit in different positions actually fairly comfortably with it. And if I loosen it up all the way, now I can also address awkward angles. If I was shooting on a mountain this way and I'm just trying to get level, if I'm not using my feet, I can use these built-in angles for correction. All right, so very awkward position you might get forced into because hunting does stuff like that. But can the bipod get tall enough to compensate for the position I might need to crawl into? Absolutely it can. Looks pretty good actually. Comfortable. How about over here? Yeah, not too bad. Let's go ahead and take a shot. Yeah, this is it's probably the only way I could be comfortable shooting downhill while needing to shoot a little bit higher is using a bipod. A backpack usually just doesn't have enough in it to make the shot work. All impacts looked really nice, and just a little bit of front load to make that work and be consistent, take any amount of tolerance out of this. All right, one more time, thanks to CVLIFE for sending this out to the channel. Guys, this is a carbon fiber material. It's really nice to have something that's lightweight like that. You do have that QD attachment for Picatinny, which is very clever and useful. I think it's gonna last a long time. You have swivel and tilt built into it, so you can basically get 360 degrees of swivel and then quite a bit of tilt. 6 height adjustments, which are gonna be ranging from about 7.8 to 10.6 inches. That's some important information, and all you have to do is press that button to adjust it. And then you have foldable options for the legs, 3 positions, whether it's locked in the open position for use, or if you're going to stow it behind or stow it forward. Really neat. I added mine to a Picatinny Arca adapter. Obviously they have other versions. If this isn't exactly what you're looking for, I think I've seen on Amazon they have an M-Lock version, they have the Picatinny version. There's usually a version that's going to work for you. And so if this is interesting to you, obviously this is my application, but you might want to take a look at it and think about whether it'll fit on your system and what you're trying to use, whether that be long range target practice, hunting, or maybe just doing a little bit of plinking and pesting like I am right here. It's not going to break the bank. It's a pretty reasonable price. You can find these for under $80, and I'm going to have some links down in the comment section if that's useful to you. Go ahead and check those out. Not bad. Again, this is the CVLIFE carbon fiber adjustable with swivel and tilt bipod, and you can find these on Amazon or over at CVLIFE's website. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and maybe hang around for one of these other videos handpicked for you.